Coming up on Arirang News. South Korea's economy grew by 1.4% in 2023, meeting the government's forecast. But the GDP growth was still the lowest seen in 3 years. Promising to open the era of 30-minute commutes to the capital, Seoul, from the greater metropolitan area and surrounding Gyeonggi-do province, President Yoon vows to eliminate transportation disparities with the opening of the Great Train Express this March. North Korea confirmed its first test launching of a new cruise missile yesterday morning, naming it the Bulhwasal 3-31, meaning fire arrow in Korean. The regime says it was part of the continued regular and mandatory renewal of its weapons systems. Good evening. It's 9 p.m. here in Seoul. Thank you for joining us on Arirang News. We start with South Korea's economic growth in 2023. The local economy expanded by 1.4% last year, meeting the central bank's target. But it's the lowest since the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic amid sluggish exports and tightening monetary policies around the world. Our Lee Soo-jin leads us off.
South Korea's economy grew at its forecasted pace in 2023. Data from the Bank of Korea released on Thursday shows that the country's gross domestic product, a key indicator of economic growth, grew 1.4% last year, in line with the central bank's forecast. But the growth is nearly half that of the 2.6% on-year growth recorded in 2022 and the lowest seen in 3 years. The central bank mostly attributed the sluggish growth to weak private consumption as well as small increases in government spending, exports, and imports compared to previous years. Private consumption rose by only 1.8% on year, government spending by 1.3%, exports by 2.8%, and imports by 3%. In the fourth quarter last year, South Korea's economy grew by 0.6% on quarter, posting quarterly growth for the fourth consecutive quarter. Positive growth in quarter 4 was mostly led by an increase in exports thanks to a recovery in the chip sector. And the central bank expects the semiconductor-led recovery in the export sector seen towards the end of last year to continue this year as well.
We can see, just by looking at the data released by the Korea Customs Service for the first 20 days of January, that exports of semiconductors rose by a large margin, signaling that exports this year will also see a recovery led by semiconductors.
But will this be enough for South Korea to achieve its goal of a 2.1% economic growth this year? One expert is optimistic about the country's growth.
I'm personally positive in gaining over 2% growth for this year. As we talked about, the domestic expenditures of consumption and investment are expected to be worse than last year. So the remaining momentum drives Korean economy would be a stronger export. The chip market is highly expected to be recovered from the first half of this year.
The Bank of Korea official added that for South Korea to post stronger economic growth this year, both the government and the economic sector need to focus on mitigating key domestic and international issues that impact GDP, such as persistently low birth rates and remaining competitive on the global stage amid the rise of India and China. Lee Soo-jin, Arirang News.
Moving on to the bullet trains that are expected to slash commuting times by 2/3. The overheated housing market, particularly in the capital, has forced many people to live further out from Seoul. To help these commuters, President Yoon vowed to extend high-speed intracity train lines that are set to open soon, among other pledges today during a town hall discussion with citizens. Our Kim Do-yeon explains further.
From 70 minutes to just 20. That's how much time the Great Train Express, or GTX, will cut for those commuting from Dongtan in Gyeonggi-do province to Suseok in Gangnam of Seoul, starting this March as the first GTX line, Line A, opens. That's according to President Yoon Suk-yeol on Thursday, as improving commuting times and transportation was the theme of the 6th New Year's policy discussion.
저는 그래서 선거 때부터 출퇴근 30분 시대를 약속드렸습니다. 출퇴근의 질이 바로 우리 삶의 질이기 때문입니다. 교통 격차 해소를 통해서 국민의 이 삶의 질을 확실하게 개선해 드리겠습니다. 당장 올해부터 본격적인 GTX 시대를 열겠습니다.
The GTX project officially started back in 2011. Many who work in Seoul opt for cheaper housing in Gyeonggi-do province with a longer commute. The GTX was aimed to relieve this. Reducing commuting time also means that it could ease Seoul's intense real estate market as more people consider living further out from the capital. GTX lines confirmed so far are A, B, and C. A goes from Gyeonggi-do, north of Seoul, cutting through before ending at the southern part of the province at Pyeongtaek Station. B cuts across horizontally and is set to start operating in 2030. While C also runs vertically, set to operate 2028. All have a maximum speed of 180 kilometers per hour, 3 times faster than the current Seoul metro system. More are being planned as well. Lines D, E, and F will be pushed by the current administration. Line E is set to connect to the nation's main international airport. On top of this, the government is looking to create similar express train systems in the nation's 4 biggest cities, including Busan. Also, according to the government, more projects are in the pipeline. They include underground highway systems and improving the public transit of other local districts. Altogether, it will be worth more than $100 billion, including private funding. Meanwhile, Thursday's discussion was held in the city of Uijeongbu of Gyeonggi-do province, where the groundbreaking ceremony for Line C followed. President Yoon was there to amplify his message.
처음부터 끝까지 꼼꼼하게 직접 챙기겠습니다. 늦지 않고 제때 제대로 개통되게 하겠습니다. 국민과의 약속은 반드시 지킬 것입니다.
President Yoon also spoke to those involved in the construction of the projects, asking them for a speedy but safe completion. Kim Do-yeon, Arirang News.
Staying with the transportation, a special law for the construction of a railroad connecting the southwestern city of Gwangju and the southeastern city of Daegu was passed on Thursday during a plenary session at the National Assembly. Dubbed the Moonlight Railroad, which aims to be completed by 2030, it has a total track length of around 200 kilometers. Once opened, the travel time between Gwangju and Daegu will be reduced to just over an hour, down from the current 2.5 hours. The railway has long been considered crucial for promoting balanced national development and addressing the challenges of regional decline. With the passage of the bill, the Moonlight Railroad will be exempted from a preliminary feasibility study. The bill received unprecedented bipartisan support, co-sponsored by a record 261 lawmakers from both the ruling and opposition parties. Beginning this Saturday, the law punishing the owners of large-sized businesses for accidents at their workplace will begin to affect small business owners as well. This is because the rival parties at the National Assembly did not reach an agreement until the last minute on an extension of the grace period given to small businesses. Our National Assembly correspondent Lee Si-hoo reports.
Beginning this Saturday, some 830,000 small business owners or CEOs will face penalties if they don't do their best to prevent serious industrial accidents at their workplaces. This as talks after talks between lawmakers spanning days at the National Assembly did not lead to a grace period extension of the Serious Accidents Punishment Act. This would penalize businesses with 5 to 49 workers. The act was first enacted in 2021 to protect workers and customers from health risks and concerns due to preventable malpractices. It was implemented a year after in 2022, but only applied to businesses with 50 or more employees, with smaller businesses given a 2-year grace period. It punishes death, repetitive injuries, or sickness among workers as well as customers who have used their products or services. The owners may receive either a prison sentence of a year or more or a fine of up to 1 billion Korean won or around $749,000. Owners are required to conduct yearly self-inspections to check for safety hazards. Businesses in certain industries must hire an additional safety manager. While Thursday's plenary session was the last chance for an extension according to legal deadline, it wasn't discussed nor voted upon due to clashes in opinions between parties. The PPP has been calling for an additional 2-year grace period for small businesses, saying that it requires more time to prepare the safety measures that have been called for.
Many small and medium-sized business owners may face closures in the worst-case scenario unless the act is suspended. Workers will also lose their jobs.
The DP is calling for further measures by the government before it can agree with the extension. It's calling for the establishment of an industrial safety prevention agency as well as a related budget increase.
If the act is suspended for another 2 years without any action taken, our industrial safety will be in the same state again, even 2 years later.
Amid the debates, President Yoon called for the Assembly's approval on an extension earlier on Thursday, stating the need to consider the situations of small business owners, his second comment of assertion since a cabinet meeting last week. Lee Si-hoo, Arirang News.
Ruling People Power Party lawmaker Bae Hyun-jin was taken to hospital with a head injury on Thursday evening after being attacked by an unidentified assailant in Seoul. Bae's aide said a man struck the back of her head with a rock the size of an adult's fist. She was taken to hospital bleeding from the wounds sustained, but is currently conscious and is believed to be in a non-life-threatening condition. The suspect, who claimed himself as a 15-year-old, was arrested by police at the site. Bae, a former television news anchor, briefly served as then-President-elect Yoon Suk-yeol's spokesperson in 2022. The attack comes some 3 weeks after opposition Democratic Party leader Lee Jae-myung was stabbed in the neck during a visit to Busan. In other news, North Korea today confirmed its missile testing on Wednesday, claiming that the launch involved a new strategic type of cruise missile. Kim Jung-sil has details.
North Korea says the cruise missile that it fired on Wednesday morning was its new strategic cruise missile called the Bulhwasal 3-31. Bulhwasal means fire arrow in Korean. The North claimed the test was part of an ongoing renewal of its weapon systems and is a regular and obligatory activity of its missile and defense science agencies. Previously, its very similar cruise missiles were just called Hwasal 1 and 2, meaning arrow.
By giving it a complicated name, North Korea appears to be highly intent on threat propaganda, as if it's developing a new weapon system.
North Korea's underwater drone carrying a strategic nuclear weapon is called the Hail-2 unmanned underwater nuclear attack boat. The South Korean military provided analysis during a briefing on Thursday morning.
The cruise missile launched by North Korea yesterday had somewhat shorter flight distance compared to those launched in the past. We believe this time the test was intended to improve the performance of existing cruise missiles.
Experts say cruise missiles can hit targets precisely from long range, but because they are slow, they can be shut down if detected. It's for this reason that the UN Security Council hasn't banned cruise missiles as opposed to ballistic missiles for North Korea. But experts said Pyongyang's cruise missiles can pose just as much of a threat if they can carry nuclear warheads as claimed by the North. Tensions are rising on the Korean peninsula, with the regime carrying out its second missile provocation in 10 days after it launched a solid-fueled IRBM on January 14th. Kim Jung-sil, Arirang News.
The conflict in the Middle East is creating a ripple effect across the global economy as it's disrupting one of the world's most significant shipping routes. Our trade correspondent Moon has more on the impacts and responses to this shipping crisis.
Global shipping rates have jumped as hundreds of ships have begun to take a detour in order to avoid attacks from Houthi forces in the Red Sea. The shipping route through the Suez Canal is the shortest pathway connecting Asia with Europe and the east coast of the United States and handles roughly 12% of the world's annual global trade. But now ships are taking an alternative path around Africa, and according to the International Monetary Fund, maritime traffic in the Suez Canal was down by more than a third so far in 2024 than the same period last year.
If you look at the travel time, which is in some respect now double, triple the time to the Eastern Med, normally it's 10 days through the canal. Now it is 18 days longer.
With longer journeys, shipping rates and insurance premiums are rising. According to UK-based Drury shipping consultants, the average worldwide cost of shipping a 40-foot container has more than doubled in the past month. Tesla and Volvo suspended operations at some of their European plants due to shortages of parts from Asia, while retailers such as Swedish furniture giant IKEA warned of possible delays in stock. With these rising costs, financial services company JP Chase predicted that worldwide consumer prices could rise 0.7% in the first half of the year and contribute to worsening inflation. An expert says that firms will need to monitor the situation closely and respond quickly.
Changes will vary greatly depending on how much faster shipping companies deploy their ships and respond by changing network strategies again for this increased journey time.
Governments are responding to different aspects of the situation in various ways. The US has formed a naval coalition with the likes of Britain and France to counter threats directly in the Red Sea. South Korea, on the other hand, is focusing on rising shipping rates. During an emergency meeting to discuss exports on Thursday, the country's trade ministry unveiled its plans to implement support for firms in stages, depending on how shipping rates rise. In particular, it will be supporting SMEs by increasing designated freight space and funding 3.6 billion Korean won, or just under $2.7 million for shared warehouses in Europe and the US. Moon Hae-ryun, Arirang News.
Moving on, the World Bank chief sees South Korea as a contributing country that can greatly support developing countries in terms of digitization. These remarks came during his trip to Seoul, marking the first time in over 5 years that a World Bank president has visited the country. Our economic correspondent Shin Ha-young reports.
A very strong economy. That's how President Jaap van Zweden of the World Bank sees South Korea as a contributor to emerging economies, he said during a press conference in Seoul on Thursday. He added the Korean companies have deep expertise in various sectors from shipbuilding to chips and automobiles.
Korea has gone from, in 50 to 60 years, from a situation where it was devastated and had to come out from deep poverty, many challenges, foreign exchange issues, and come from that to a country that is in the top few in the world, and now is a bastion of knowledge and capability for development in the rest of the world.
South Korea is supporting developing countries in their digital transformation by teaming up with the World Bank to share the country's digital policies and innovations, including AI, cybersecurity, and its digital platform government. On Thursday, while observing a simulation of South Korea's digital twin technology, a virtual geospatial model of the real world used for urban planning and management, President Banga suggested that it could be a valuable tool for reconstruction in Ukraine and Palestine, which is expected to take place in the near future. He added that technologies including AI are South Korea's strengths as a contributor.
Third, it has AI and the sensor technology. We were just looking at examples of that, because that's basically sensor technology and geospatial mapping combined with AI that is producing what you just saw on the screen a little while ago. It has that ability. When you put all that together, it's very useful for what the world needs.
He added that it is highly beneficial for developing countries because advances in fields such as agriculture can be made through AI and advanced technologies. Meanwhile, regarding the country's low birth rate issue, President Banga pointed out the gender pay gap as one of the reasons.
We need growing populations, as you know well, in Korea, to be able to keep and sustain the future. If you don't ensure that women are compensated adequately for the burden they bear for enabling that population to grow, it leads to complexity.
Earlier in the day, President Bang Gan met with Finance Minister Choi Sang-mok following a meeting with President Yoon Suk-yeol the previous day to expand the partnership between the World Bank and South Korea and foster it for the next few years. 신화영, Arirang News.
On the cultural front, the Seoul Philharmonic, one of the oldest orchestras in Korea, recently appointed its new music director, Jaap van Zweden. He is holding an inaugural concert with the orchestra from today featuring pianist Im Yoon-chan. Ahead of this, our culture correspondent Song Yoo-jin listened to what the maestro has in plan for his 5-year term.
Less than a month into his role as the music director of the Seoul Philharmonic Orchestra, Jaap van Zweden says he's already feeling at home. His connection with Korea goes back decades.
My big violin teacher was a Korean man, Hyo Kang, who is still a very respected teacher at the Juilliard School. And I have very close contact still with him. But on stage, I've been working for many years with Korean artists.
Before coming to Korea, the Dutch conductor led the New York and Hong Kong Philharmonic orchestras. Under his baton, the Hong Kong Philharmonic became the first Asian orchestra to be named Gramophone's Orchestra of the Year. Celebrating his new chapter in Korea, Seoul Philharmonic is holding a concert featuring pianist Im Yoon-chan, the winner of the 2022 Van Cliburn International Piano Competition. It's been only a few days since they started rehearsing together, but they've already found a rhythm.
I can smell, I can feel, I can see also that the history of this man is hard-working, serious musician. And that is always very touching and moving.
The 2-day concert will provide a glimpse into the maestro's vision for the Seoul Philharmonic. Performing Mahler's Symphony No. 1 aligns with his goal of performing and recording all of Mahler's symphonies within his 5-year term.
And I think it will make the orchestra, it will put the orchestra in an extra layer of color, emotions, strength in the future.
For him, a top-tier orchestra consistently delivers excellence, and his aim is clear: to shape the Seoul Philharmonic into just that.
I think that maybe the road to heaven is maybe more beautiful than heaven itself. So being on the road with the orchestra is the big joy for me. And I hope also for the players in the orchestra.
And he hopes the audience feels the same.
We truly enjoy every concert that we play on stage. And so the enjoyment and the intensity, that is what we want to give the public.
Starting with this week's concert, Van Zweden will be opening up a new era with the Seoul Philharmonic Orchestra. Song Yoo-jin, Arirang News.
Girl group NewJeans has been named Group of the Year at the 2024 Billboard Women in Music Awards, becoming the first K-pop group to win in the category. NewJeans is set to attend the ceremony on March 6th at the YouTube Theater in Los Angeles. The South Korean group made a big splash last August when their second EP, Get Up, entered the Billboard 200 at #1. Other honorees this year include American singer Maren Morris, American rapper Ice Spice, and British singer-songwriter Charlie XCX. The Billboard Women in Music Awards is an annual event held by Billboard, established in 2007, to recognize women in music industry who have made significant contributions to the business. The
cold wave has continued for 4 days in a row now. Daytime temperatures were better than yesterday's, but today still felt like a freezer. This freezing cold snap will continue until tomorrow morning and then gradually ease off from the daytime. Most places will go back to above freezing temperatures. However, snow is forecast in the mountainous areas of Jeju Island from tonight. Around 1 to 3 centimeters of snow will accumulate by tomorrow morning. On the west coast and Jeju Island, where lots of snow had fallen, roads may be icy. Extra caution is necessary. Most regions will start the morning at sub-zero temperatures. Seoul and Daejeon -6 degrees. Daily highs will move up to 3 degrees in Seoul, Daegu and Gwangju 7 degrees Celsius. As for Gangwon-do province, where the Youth Olympic Games are being held, morning temperatures will still be freezing, as low as -13 degrees in Pyeongchang and Cheongsan. Please take care not to catch a cold. This weekend will be sunny with clear skies and temperatures will go back to normal. That's all for Korea. Here are the weather conditions around the world.
Well, that brings an end to this newscast. Thank you for watching. We'll be back at 10 p.m. with the AI headline news. Good night.